Taurus, this is your tarot reading for June. If you've been regularly listening to my readings for you, you'll note that I've claimed that you've changed. You've put away your, I don't want to call them licentious, but I can't think of a better way of saying it quickly, your licentious ways. Well, have you? Well, June is one of those months where things are unresolved, and I think the past does somewhat come back to haunt you. When I look at that middle card, however, we have strength. That's an inner strength, so it's telling me that you have the strength to see through whatever this problem might be. If we look at the past, you were faced with an important decision to make, an important decision that you found difficult to make. Neither side seemed good or bad. Was this to do with your past love life? I think it's highly likely. However, now you're standing powerfully as a emperor, sitting powerfully as an emperor, a person of authority, a person that people look up to, somewhat conservative maybe. In the future, you get the bit between your teeth, you get a tremendous sense of direction and a sense of speed. You know where you're going and why you're going there. However, what leads to the outcome is you reminiscing somewhat over the past. You looking at what has happened to you. Maybe looking at it and saying, well, I've got through it, so maybe not a bad thing. But nevertheless, looking at maybe the darker aspects of your previous life. What would change everything is a broken heart. Now, this is where I think the broken heart from the past is cropping up again. What the outcome is, if we're following the reminiscence, you needing to take a rest. And I think that's a very wise thing to do. Well-earned rest. So let's get into this and unpack what all these energies really mean. Now, I'm sure the universe is saying to you that maybe you'll be somewhat tested during June, but it's also reassuring you that you're strong. This is a deep inner strength, that if you stick with things, you can get through it. And, I have seen a determination on your behalf to change, to cast aside your past life and to move on. But it's quite normal when you undergo such changes for you to be tested, and I think June is one of those months of tests. But as I say, you're being reassured that you have this strength and you can see it through. Now, in the past, you had a difficult decision to make. A decision whereby there didn't seem to be any rights or wrongs. A decision whereby you didn't feel you had the information to make it. Could this have been a decision about abandoning your old life and moving on? I'm sure it was, and I'm sure you did decide to abandon your old life, and it was the right decision. And that strength card is saying, yes, you've made the right decision. But as I say, tests do come in June, and this is quite normal. Don't regret the decision you've made, if indeed I'm talking about this is the decision that we're talking about here. Now have the energy of the Emperor. This isn't the first time it's cropped up for you. I think indeed it cropped up last month. This is you sitting very powerfully. You have been something of an authority figure, people looking up to you. Perhaps a little bit conservative even, despite your past life. So I do see this as incredibly positive, people looking up to you, yeah. And not for the first time, you've come across as somewhat conservative. So I'm not surprised at this energy. No, I think this is an indication that you're moving in the right direction. And it's a good energy to have here. The positive card, which does sort of say to me, yes, you're definitely heading in the right direction, you've definitely changed. That of the Chariot, it is a card of balance actually. But what I'm really taking from it is that you've got the bit between your teeth, you've got a sense of direction, a sense of purpose. You know where you're going and why, and in doing so you're moving with a degree of vigour. So different to the stymied Taurus that we've seen for so long. So it really does suggest that you have indeed changed, that you are indeed doing the right things. I have hinted before that in terms of global issues, maybe you're behind the rest of the zodiac signs because you've been preoccupied with personal issues, and I haven't been seeing this Chariot as a good sign for other zodiac signs, but I've got to say for you, Taurus, I do think it's very positive. Now, the energy that leads to the outcome is the Nine of Wands, which I said is a card of reminiscence, of looking back at the past and saying, well, I got through it. But it's much more than that. It's a card of resilience. It's a card of testing boundaries. And of course, I've said that this month is a test of boundaries. It's a test of you. But the card is saying that you are resilient, you can get through this. So whatever the problem is that's going to appear in this June, you're well up for it. But I was absolutely right. It is very much a test. And that's where this strength card comes in, you know. It's letting you know that, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. It is about putting up the right boundaries, maybe on yourself, but maybe also on others. What is this test? Well, in truth, we don't know, but we do have an energy that would change the outcome, and that is the energy of the Three of Swords, which is the broken heart. Now, over the years that I've been reading for you, you've had a broken heart many, many times. Is this reflecting on one of those broken hearts, or is this a new one? I don't know. What I normally say with this card is it's a minor arcana and it shouldn't last. But then I'm someone who suffered from a broken heart for 30 years, so who am I to speak about that? You know, I know it can last. But normally it doesn't, and there's every indication you don't let this broken heart get to you. But I think this is the test. I think this is it. And the outcome, and this is the outcome coming from you succeeding in the test, is that of you needing a rest. Well, that's understandable. And you should take this rest. You should take this rest. You know, if you've been battling with your emotions, for example, a broken heart, then a rest is the best thing you can do. You need to internalize what has happened. You need to play them out as you're sleeping. And in doing so, you know, maybe even to forgive. Rather than trying to control things, just succumbing to rest. and it will raise your vibrations. So it's very much the right thing to be doing. So I think we know what is going on now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to seek a little bit of clarification first. So I'm just going to seek clarification on this broken heart, and I think I've got it right, but let's see. The first card we have, or the first energy we have, Knight of Pentacles, somebody that's determined but moving very slowly. The second card we have is the Death card, a bitter and abrupt ending. And the third card we have is moving on and dumping baggage. So I am right, but let me explain each of these to you and what I make of them. Now remember, we're explaining the broken heart, and I know you've moved on, and you're determined to move on. You're determined not to let it affect you, but in your darkest moments you do think about it. You're determined not to, but you do. And these feelings, you felt that by now they should be gone, but they're not. They continue. They continue to haunt you. But remember that strength card. You've got the strength, and this is saying also you've got the determination not to let it affect you. We all get dark moments, and the trick is for them to be fleeting, and that's how you must approach it. And why have you got a broken heart? Well, it was a bitter and abrupt ending. I'm taking it this was the last broken heart you had, but who knows? But there was a bitter and abrupt ending, an ending that you weren't anticipating, one that you didn't want at the time, although I think now you probably realise it was the right thing. Many months ago I spotted one where I suspected that the person who'd broken your heart was a narcissist. I think we're probably talking about that one. Whether or not that was the last one or there's another, I don't know, but I think that's the one we're talking about here. But move on you must, and you know it. And as I say, the trick is not to dwell on it. And yeah, you do know that you've got to put your past life behind you, including this, whatever it was that broke your heart. You've got to move on, and you've got to dump the baggage. And, you know, you've heard me say this many times, but not unnaturally, you're struggling with it a little. I'm getting exactly the same messages at the moment, you know. I'm getting messages to forget about my past life in the UK. Now, I wasn't there all the time, but you know, I was there for, well, let's take out the time that I wasn't there. I've certainly lived in the UK for 50 years of my life. And so I'm being asked to put aside 50 years, no longer think about it, and devote myself to my family and to Indonesia, which intellectually I'm ready to do, but yeah, in your darkest moments you do reminisce and think about it. Taurus, over the years I've tracked your life, your love life in particular. I did at the start describe you as licentious, and I'm not too certain that that's a fair description. You've had a turbulent love life. There certainly was a few months ago the indication that somebody you loved was a narcissist. And I wonder if how much of what has happened is not due to you, but due to you being manipulated. But you took the decision to move on, and, you know, pat yourself on the back, Taurus, because you have. You're actually become something of a father figure, an authority figure. Now, you've always been a wee bit conservative, but now people look up to you. And in the future, you're going to get the bit between your teeth. You're going to know where you're going, what you're doing, and why, and be moving there with a pace, which is a wonderful sign that you have indeed moved on, and you have. However, when you move on like this, all too often the universe sends you a little test. And June is the month for at least one of those tests. Maybe you'll get more, but June is a month of being tested. The universe wants you to know that you have a wonderful inner strength and that you're quite capable. So don't give in to this test. But yeah, it's a test. It's a test of your boundaries. It's a test if you really have moved on. Well, what is the test? Well, it's a test of reminiscence. A test of your broken heart. You thought you'd be over it quicker. You have moved on. You have dumped the baggage. So why on earth are you still in your darkest moments thinking about it? Well, that's natural. We all have dark moments, but what you must do is you must let them be fleeting, not let them get to you. What was it that broke your heart? Well, I think it is this relationship with a narcissist, but it could be another, but it was certainly one that broke down quite abruptly. It was very painful, it was very abrupt. So no wonder you think about it. No wonder you think about it. But you can master this. You really can. And the best thing to do, if you can allow it to be fleeting, is simply take a rest. Stop trying to control things. Let your brain process what has happened. And as it does, find forgiveness. But also, you will raise your vibrations. So well done, really, Taurus. You have changed, I promise you.